got my green tea. Life is cool. I've got my new Green Aqua t-shirt. Welcome to the beautiful world of aquascaping. Here we go, plant tutorial. Tutorial number 3. We've got 2 more plant tutorials on this channel. I'm going to link them in the description. Today we're going to do something simple. I'm going to teach you how to plant, what kind of tools to use, what kind of soil to use, and what plants need in general. So this is going to be a very quick, very easy Green Aqua tutorial here. And I've got another camera here mounted on top, which you don't see in the picture because the guys were really super cool. And that is showing my tea right now, but I can rotate this whole thing. And then you see what I do here on this table. Quite cool. All right, so if you live in Europe, you're in luck because you can get this t-shirt and you can get the Green Aqua plants. And when you receive those plants, they're coming in this neat little Tropica bag. All you need to do is to cut the top of the bag and then to take out all the plants that you got. Both the in vitro lab plants and the normal submerged plants that are coming from the nursery like this are being packed into these big bags. This video is not for getting you acquainted to the plants. This is just a general video to show you how to use those plants that you already are acquainted with. Storage and repens. This is the last plant that came into this box. Before we move on, what do plants need? Plants need good soil, preferably clay-based substrate, good fertilizers, and CO2 injection, and also good lighting. Okay, back to the soils. You're not going to see this too well because I'm not able to move this. You see all the different types. Why I said that ideally you would want to plant into clay-based substrate. Plant roots love to stay in that substrate, and that substrate will help you with the filtration. The grain size is heavy enough and big enough so that it will keep the plant roots in between the soil and the plant will not come up. That is the problem with some soils that are smaller grain size soils. I don't really like to use beginner soils because if you use them, you have 2 problems. First of all, it's very difficult to plant in them, and I will show you why. Secondly, the bigger grain size would enable stronger flow in the substrate, so the water would go and bring all the oxygen to the nitrifying bacteria, so they will take care of your aquarium biology much better. For planting, obviously, you can use different types of tweezers, and I've got the great chopsticks. You can try to plant with chopsticks. Water, rinse it a little bit if you want to. It's a good idea to rinse the liquid jelly off. I tear off one part of this and then take a chunk and I fold it like that. I want to show you why we don't do this with our hands. It works. But now if I would want to plant the second one next to it and the second one, so try to do this. You're going to take out the other one, it's going to be a mess. Let's see what happens if I do this same thing with chopsticks. So. See, if I'm taking it out, it starts to pull this plant out a little bit because the friction between the plant root and the chopstick itself is higher, so that this whole thing will take out soil, will take out plant roots and everything as I remove it. I'm gonna throw it out so Tommy will not eat his next sushi with this. Let's show you what kind of tools we have here. We have 4 types of tweezers. The first one is the Chihiros one. This is a big one, and it's good for planting tanks that are higher because you can reach down much further. But also the tip, as you can see, it's much wider than the ADA ones. These are thicker at the end. Not much, but a little bit thicker than the other one. The friction created on this surface is much bigger, obviously, than the friction created on the smaller surface. I would prefer to use the Chihiros middle ones if I'm planting plants that have bigger roots. So for bigger plants, this is ideal because you can grab the bigger root structure better with a wider tip. And then the small one is Tommy's favorite, the ADA small tweezers, Pro Pincets S. And this is the Pro Pincets M, which is my favorite. I would not save money on tools, but I would understand if some of you guys would say that, okay, I'm gonna just make one tank, I'm gonna try myself out, and I don't need very expensive tools for that. And also actually Chihiros comes at a very good price. And then we have some tools that I already used, and I'm throwing these tools everywhere. The curved type ADA scissors, the straight type scissors. The difference between these two guys, you can see. So this one is curved. You can trim the bottom a lot easier than this one. You can trim with this one along the front glass. One more tool, the last tool that I want to show you, this is for trimming mosses. It's a small tweezer and it's easy to use. It doesn't apply as much force as the other tweezers would. Tear another one off. I fold it. I grab it at the bottom in a 45-degree angle so I can plant easily. Ideally, you would want to plant as densely as possible, but then the budget that you spend on plants will go higher and higher. I'm gonna plant this right next to the other one. Just gonna push it in, jiggle it a little bit, as you can see here, and then release, and then take out the tweezer. And you see that the plant didn't move at all. Ideally, one full pot should be enough for one palm size area. I'm using twice as much in all our videos, and I explain to you guys in every video you don't need to use as much plants as we do. I want the final look to be ready and available for you guys in the B-rolls at the end of each video. I didn't mention how deep you want to plant it. So this is my style of planting. You can see that only the roots and 3 millimeters of the plant will go into the soil, but equally you can just push it in a lot more. This one here is pushed in a lot more than this one. If you plant the whole area like this, when you're ready, you would have the feeling, the sense that you don't have as many plants in the aquarium. This way, I will have the feeling of having many more plants, and the roots will grow down anyway, so they will grab into. The danger in doing so is that if you do that and the plant is not held in properly by the heavy grain size, the plant can float up when you fill up the tank. The difference between Monte Carlo and Cuba is that they have almost the same very small leaf structure, but Cuba has almost no roots. I would plant Cuba like I planted this patch here. I would push Cuba in a lot more than I would push Monte Carlo in. Planting in different types of substrate. What do we have here? Here we have the Amazonia, and these are the root sticks that come with the Amazonia version 2. You need to put these root sticks into the soil. So this is a sprayer. You can have the little sprayer and just spray the soil a little bit before you plant it, that's it. Some people prefer to use dry soil. I like it wet. That's just me, okay? With my stupid jokes. So what happens if you want to plant in a soil that is lighter in grain size? This is the JB Amanado. If I'm quick, see, it comes out. If you have a stronger filter, the flow will move these little light particles around, so you will end up in having a little crater at the point where the flow hits the substrate. But it's a good soil for beginners. Many have used it with great success for years, saved a lot of money on it. So it's perfectly cool. You can do the same thing with sand. The grain size is even smaller, but the lightness of the sand, see, it stands in. The problem with sand is that the roots would not feel very good in sand. This is the Demeter gravel, which I would say that it's mostly for decoration. Planting in it, I need to keep it, push it, jiggle it. So you can do this, but it would take a lot of time. Right now, let's move on to the different categories of plants. Number 1, foreground plants. You have already seen the Eleocharis, the dwarf hairgrass that I used. The Micranthemum Monte Carlo, as I said, it's very similar to the Cuba. I just teared out a little part of it. I hold it together, 45 degrees as usual. I push it in a little bit more than I did with the Eleocharis, and I release it. And you can see that the soil is holding the plant in. He doesn't want to come out. And then let's take a bigger chunk of this. This is like twice as big as the other one. First problem, I'm not able to grab it. And I would have to put it like this inside, and it almost disappears below the soil. You see that? If I plant like this, most of the times it's just gonna come out. If we were underwater, oops, see? Comes out. What I do is I take another tweezer, whatever, I'm gonna take the longer one. I'm gonna push this in a lot more than usual, and then hold it down with the other one, and then take out this one very carefully. Hold it, you can do that with your finger, it's much easier though. I push it in, I put my finger on top, and that kept it there. And also you can put some soil on. If there's a lot of plants, then you obviously need to do that. If you would have the time, I would drain the water down, replant the whole thing. I'm gonna show you what I do planting depth-wise. This is the Balazs style of planting, very densely, but I would say that, you know, planting at this distance is already fine. Even here is fine. So this gap between these two guys will be filled in about 2 weeks. Don't do this next to the front glass. If you have soil going all the way to the front glass and you don't have, for example, sand in the foreground, then if you do this, all the ugly roots and bottom of plants which are, you know, like squeezed in there are going to be visible. I'm planting it just a little bit further away from the front glass. And if I do this, you already don't see the plant, but if you see it from the top, you can see that actually there's like a 2 or 3 millimeter gap in between the plant and the front glass, and the plant leaves will fall onto the front glass. Foreground plants, let's just stop at this name a little bit. You don't have to use the foreground plants in the foreground. You can use them in the midground, you can use them in the background, you can use them, actually the Monte Carlo can be used attached, even glued to rocks. This is the general indication of the size of the plant. So foreground plants are usually 3 to 5 centimeters, depending on how often you trim it. We usually like to keep them as low as possible, 2-3 centimeters maximum. If we move on to the midground plants, Sterogyne repens and the...
It's not parva, I know.
I know it's not parva, it's the Lutea hobbit.
Crypto something.
It's the Cryptolutea hobbit.
I'll check.
What I do is I hold the plant, jiggle it a little bit, I don't need this, and I take it out of this rock wool. So this moves into the rock wool in a line. If I find the line, I can split the rock wool along that line to expose the roots. I can squeeze off gently these. This rock wool is not useful, so I have to just throw it out. I take my favorite tweezers and I can gently scrape off the rock wool, sticking it in between the plant roots. I can actually do this under the water as well, and I can clean it quite well. You can see that this can be split into bunches. Ideally, you don't want to plant the whole thing like this, so I split it, and I naturally look where it releases. I take my tweezers, this one is okay for that, and I hold it like this. So the tip of the tweezers is almost at the end of the roots. I never catch it like this. So right now the roots are not protected. The roots are just hanging, and if you start to push them into the soil, you would hurt the roots a little bit, okay? Another tip, you can trim these a little bit. For these, I'm not using the 45-degree angle here. So I'm not planting like this. Why? I can grab it better. And also, I want to help the roots with the tip. Same method, a lot more obviously. See how much I pushed it in? This much. This is going to be an automatic process when you do it. Push it in, try to take your tweezers out. You realize that the plant is moving. Hold it again, push it back in, release, take it out. So another midground plant, sturgeon repens. Same thing, remove the pot, find the line. See, this splits in itself already. I'm pushing it all the way down. Again, not to the front glass, please. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. I release and I remove the tweezer. Don't worry about having some leaves under the soil, because right now you see that you have a lot of leaves under the soil. They will rot there. They would provide some additional nutrients to the plants. You're not going to have algae because of that. The next one is the background plants, stem plants. Actually, the Green Aqua website is a really good resource for plant identification, because you have different categories. You can sort the plants by brand, by positioning, by need. Even if you're not able to order from us, you're able to classify those plants nicely. The Ludwigia palustris super red. So I would say that one bunch looks like this. Some people like to trim it, and I will do it for demonstration purposes. So you see, I left about 2-3 centimeters of roots here, and I left about 4 or 5 centimeters of plant on top. I hold the roots only, as usual. I'm holding the plant with one hand, and the other one goes down there. I take it up a little bit, I release, and I take the tweezers out. Without any other preparation, you can just grab this, put it next to it. If the plant is too big, the bottom would not get enough light, so it will start to decompose, and it's going to get yellowish. It's not going to be beautiful. So after you trim it, the first couple of days before the plant starts to grow again are going to be messy. It's going to look ugly. So that's when you do the top off, and the top off is exactly what I did before, because I removed these tops, and I can take these tops together. This guy is tops only, see? And I'm going to push it in between these two, and then the tops will be visible and will be covering the ugly bottom of the plant after trimming. This is for the background plants, and also we've got some very strange background plants. Elocaris vivipara. Vivipara is a messy plant because it has the roots developing at the middle of the plant. See, that is a root. This would form a very messy structure. Actually, stem plants are not only potted plants. They can arrive to you in these little cups as lab plants. If you receive this in a pot, it would look a lot different, because if you look at the leaf of this plant, it looks like nothing. It doesn't look like a macrandra. And then we can move on to the epiphyte plants, and that is the fourth category. The first contestant is the Hygrophila pinnatifida. Again, the sound, I love it. This was actually cut here, but it develops the root structure just above the cut. So at every junction, there's a root structure coming in. These guys are not supposed to be planted. You want these on some wood pieces. I will continue by adding another big bunch. I'm going to take this out and just tuck this whole thing in there. Also, what you can do is you can take this and tie it, or even glue it here. You can use 3 types of lines. You've got the Riccia line, which is plastic. You could use the ADA moss cotton, which will decompose underwater after a certain time. Another favorite of mine is the Terra line from Dua. This will not decompose underwater. The plant will point upwards towards the tip of the wood. Put it in the middle, somewhere here, so that the end of the wood is visible, and then wrap it around once or twice. You don't need many. Cut it. Now I should need my glasses, right? And you can do the same with the other epiphyte plants, the Bucephalandra kedagang. I will not take it out for now. There's one more epiphyte kind of plant, which is not an epiphyte plant, it's a moss. This is actually the Christmas moss. Arrange it alongside the wood. Take the line. And then if you see any of these overhanging, you can just trim them down. And another demonstration is the one with the rocks. So for example, if you have rocks, you can take the epiphyte plant and you can just place them in between the rocks in the crack. You can glue some moss on here onto that, so you just apply a little bit of super glue below. So this is how you kind of make a structure. The good thing about the lab plants is that the lab plants will last longer, so after you bought them, you can actually keep them for like 1 or 2 weeks if direct sunlight will not hit them and you don't place them in a heated place. Well, after you purchase the potted versions though, you need to keep them underwater and you need to reuse them in a couple of days. And another thing that I didn't talk about is that some plants will come in these little boxes. Basically, it's the same technology like with the ones that come underwater. There are 3 types of mosses really. There's the portion that you just saw, that it comes in the box and the moss just sits in the box. And there's another type that comes in the box, but the whole moss is actually placed on a metallic net. What you do with this is you take the scissors and you just trim off like this at the bottom. You trim off the fishing net, basically. You trim it off and then you can peel the whole moss off this little grid. And the 3rd type of moss is the moss that it comes in jelly, just like the TC plants, the lab plants. Okay, so I think that we're ready. There's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and thank you, Gary. The floating plants. Check this out. I planted them. Planting is ready, the video is ready. Don't forget to subscribe if you didn't do so yet. Don't forget to hit that like button to support the channel and to bring this video to a wider audience. All right, we'll see you next week. Bye.